again, students. This is your flipped lesson for Storytown Vocabulary Lesson 12. To complete this activity, you need your vocab sheet, a pen or a pencil, and optionally, you may need a highlighter. If you have lost your copy of this week's vocab sheet, please look on my website or on Edmodo for a new copy. Let's get started. Your directions are to watch and listen to this presentation on your own. Feel free to pause and go back as needed. Then, write the definition or meaning of each word on your vocab sheet. Finally, write a brief response to each question that goes along with the vocabulary word. Let's take a look at our first word this week. Our first word this week is blurt. Blurt is a verb or an action word. The definition of blurt is to say something suddenly or accidentally. So, if I wanted to use this word in a sentence, I might say, I accidentally blurted out that her surprise birthday party was this weekend. Have you ever blurted out an answer in class? Write your response on your vocab sheet. The next word on our list this week is ideal. Ideal is an adjective or describing word. The definition of ideal is something that is perfect or as good as it can be. If I wanted to use the word ideal in a sentence, I might say, the weather is ideal for swimming when it is hot and sunny outside. On your vocab sheet, please draw a picture of something you would do on your ideal day. The next word on our list is pelt. In our vocab study this week, we will be using the word pelt as a verb. If you add the ing suffix to the word pelt and make the word pelting, it might still be a verb in the progressive tense, or it might be an adjective or describing word. Let's take a look at the definition. Pelt means to beat or throw something relentlessly. You may have heard another definition of the word pelt, which is a noun. That definition is a kind of animal skin that still has the fur attached to it, and many people use animal pelts as rugs or coats, but that's not the definition we will be using in our study this week, though I'm glad you knew that other definition. Let's take a look at a sentence that uses the word pelt the way we will be using it in class. The teacher was pelted by questions from the students when they didn't understand what was going on. Now think about this question. What could you use to protect yourself from pelting rain or hail? Write your response on your vocab sheet. Our next word is perch. Perch could be a verb or a noun. The definition of perch is to sit or place on something. So, when it's used as a verb, it's that action of sitting on something, maybe at the edge of it. And when it's a noun, it's the particular place where the person or thing is sitting. If I were going to use the word perch in a sentence, I might say, the students were perched at the edge of their seats for the interesting vocabulary lesson. Where do birds like to perch? Think about your answer and write it on your vocab sheet. The next word this week is slunk. Slunk is a verb, which is the past tense of the verb slink. The definition of slunk is moved or crept in a sneaky, frightened, or guilty way. If I were going to use the word slunk in a sentence, I might say, I slunk away from the sleeping dog because I didn't want to wake him up. Think about this question. What probably happened if you catch your brother slinking out of your room? Write your idea on your vocab sheet. Next up, we have the word strand. In our stories this week, the word strand is used as a verb. When we add the ed suffix to the end and make the word stranded, it could be the past tense of the verb, or it could be an adjective that's being used to describe something. The definition of the word strand, as we're using it this week, is to leave behind in a helpless position. You may have also heard the word strand used as a noun, which means a piece of something, such as a strand of hair, but that's not the definition we'll be using this week. Instead, let's take a look at how we could use the word strand as a verb in a sentence. I could say, they were stranded on the desert island and tried to find extra water for survival. Think about this question. What could you do if you are stranded when your car breaks down? Write your response on your vocab sheet. Our final word this week is wedge. In our stories this week, we will be using the word wedge as a verb, though it can also be used as a noun. The definition of wedge is crowd or squeeze into a small, confined space. A wedge as a noun is the actual object that can squeeze into that tight space, such as we use a door wedge to keep the door open by squeezing it between the door and the floor. If I were going to use the word wedge in a sentence, I might say, they tried to wedge themselves between the two rocks in order to hide during hide and seek. Next, draw a picture that will help you remember the meaning of the word wedge. You've come to the end of Lesson 12, so what's next? Go back to review any words you do not understand. Please highlight or circle words you still have questions about, and we will discuss them in class. Then, be ready to play a review game in class using these words. This week, you will need to read and understand stories that use these vocabulary words. Finally, you will use each word in an original sentence, and this will be your end-of-week quiz. I hope all of this sounds familiar by now, so make sure you are completing your worksheet, and we'll see you next week.